Timmy Joe reviews anything.
Reviewing computer parts on YouTube.
That's
Woo! Gotta be pumped on that, right, Will? Computer parts! Woo!
Oh, yeah.
What's going on, people? My name's Timmy Joe, making videos about these things. I call them computers. It's on the internet. I've said it 1,000 times. Straight into it, we've got a really cool one on the desktop here. It's got a freaking Trident X on loan from MSI. I want to thank them for sending this over for review. And I've been using it a lot. I've had a CRT video. I've been using it for some other things. I'm testing a 165 hertz 1440p monitor with it, as well as I use the video card in it for some testing as well. So I've got some opinions on the thing, and I've actually kind of fallen in love with it. I wish I could keep it, but my name's not Linus. One day, Papa Linus. Anyways, so it's a very powerful Intel-based system with an NVIDIA graphics card in it, and for the form factor, it's like a console replacement. It kicks butt. And, you know, if you wanted to buy this, although it is like, you know, let's say, whatever, 6 times more expensive than a console, this thing can rock 4K. This thing can do some pretty awesome stuff, that's for sure. And it doesn't break a sweat while doing it. It is silent and it looks good while it's doing it. It's, you know, if you want to call it a console replacement, you can't really lay it down. It comes with this tempered glass panel in the box. Actually, comes with this, and I guess you could lay it down if you wanted to, but you need the ventilation on both sides. That's how it's designed. And you know, I've built a system like this before in the Fractal Node 202, a much lower end system, obviously, but and that's, you know, a little bit smaller than this, you know, a little bit less volume, but the way this thing is built, it has the upgradability, the ease of access. I really, really like it. And there's nothing like this case-wise on the market to build this yourself. So the kind of premium they're asking for it is pretty awesome. We'll see how it compares to, you know, if you were to build it yourself in just a minute. But we have, you know, a competitor here for this would be like the Corsair One, and it's got liquid cooling and it's over-engineered as far as I'm concerned. And from the reviews, I've never really seen anyone directly compare them, but I think that the, you know, AIOs in that thing, the all-in-one liquid coolers actually hurt its performance, where this thing, it's just got some decent ventilation and it does not break a sweat while running this 9700K, and it comes in some higher end options as well. So, you know, NVIDIA RTX 2080 in this one, but you can get a version with an RTX 2070 or 2080 Ti. Holy jeez. And you can get a 9900K version as well. So lots of options, but the way mine's equipped, it's, you know, see, I like this, the way that, you know, their little graphics are showing. It really does work the way it's ventilated. It's silent and it doesn't get too hot. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, the way this thing works is dual chamber design, and it's got some really nice equipment in it, but it's a 9700K that I've got. It's got a little low profile 5 or 4 heat pipe. I think it's 5. I forget, cooler in there, but I'm showing it on the screen anyways. And 9700K that is running at stock speeds as far as I can tell, but it works really well at stock speeds, and there's no overclock on this thing, so don't go thinking that that'd be a good idea. It really isn't. The motherboard doesn't really even support it, even with this processor, so far as I can tell, but we'll get there in just a second. One DIMM of 16 gigabyte 2666 DDR4 from Samsung, bare PCB. It's hard to access, so you could upgrade it, which is a benefit. You know, add a second DIMM, but there's a downfall to that as well. It's not running in dual channel, and that actually does affect, as we'll see some benchmarks and stuff like that. But it is user serviceable. You just open up this door and take out a few screws, and you can start messing with this. You could upgrade it. You could add some RAM. You could definitely switch out the graphics card. There's a ton of room to put a bigger graphics card in the side of this thing as well, which I much appreciated. It is not, you know, limited in any capacity, where like a Fractal Node 202 case I'm talking about, it's very limited to what you can fit inside of it, because they've shrunk it down to, like, you know, a little bit smaller than this, but there's like problems with doing that for sure. So it comes with these peripherals as well. It's got an NVMe drive in it. It's like a Samsung bare PCB, probably equivalent to like an Evo 950 NVMe drive. It's got a 2 terabyte regular spinning hard drive in it as well, so loads of storage. So pretty good, like out of the box. You can plug this in and plug it in and get gaming at 4K. for the most part. In a lot of games, maybe you have to turn down a few settings depending on, you know, how high you want your frames per second. But for sure, like 60 frames a second, 4K for most games out of this should be doable, which is something, you know, there's something to that. It's pretty awesome in that form factor. So we'll switch over here to my booth. There we go. This is what we're running. It has, you know, the 4.6 gigahertz, and it turbos up to, well, you see 4.9 on one core there. Generally, while gaming, it sticks to around 4.6 to 4.7 on most cores. But you know, we ran Cinebench, and it gets a 1458, which is pretty awesome. But it's definitely, you know, throttling just a bit. It errs on the side of like silence. You can barely hear it while it's running there. But you know, you see with running Cinebench was open, you know, their hardware monitor was open. We didn't see the CPU ever get that hot. In fact, I tried overclocking this thing, and you'll see here the main board is a MicroStar International. Well, it's a MPG Z390i Gaming Edge motherboard, which has a custom BIOS or firmware on it or something. It's a low-end ITX board for Z390, and the VRM on it, I believe, just doesn't support much overclocking on these, you know, 8-core processors, because anytime I dialed in higher settings or tried to get it to hold 4.8 or 4.9 in all cores, I got worse results in Cinebench going into Windows. Like all the options are there in the BIOS, and then I thought maybe I could update the BIOS and that would help, but it has a custom BIOS on it, because if you grab the BIOS for this motherboard listed here, it doesn't work. It doesn't install on this motherboard. And if I go into like the MSI website and go to this product, it's, I think, giving a BIOS for a Z370 motherboard. So, and you know, pretty nice system though. You know, if we want to hammer some Cinebench, we'll see if you can even hear it. Nothing. We're at 4.6, 4.5. See, it errs on the side of not being able to hear it, and it's not bad. It'll take a second there, but as far as gaming goes, this is a perfect CPU. I don't think that the 6 cores, I've said this before, the i5s, it's a good idea. Like, you can't hear it. It's awesome. And we got a score of 1453, so real awesome. And I tried a bunch of stuff to overclock this. I thought maybe I could get her up near 15 or over 1500. Nothing I did in that BIOS made any sense. There is actually some software that comes with this that allows you to overclock the Dragon Center, MSI Dragon Center. So you go into performance and you can change these profiles. There's a silent profile which it was silent anyways. Like, I don't know, if you ran a Blender workload on it, it would, you know, you'd be audible. But then there's an OC that I definitely heard the fan kick on sooner, but it didn't get any better score. So I just leave well enough alone. And, you know, it's cool that it comes with software out of the box to monitor stuff like that. The layman doesn't know about loading hardware monitor or hardware info 64. It also has MSI Mystic lighting, so you can go and change all the colors and stuff. The keyboard's a generic kind of it's a membrane keyboard that's supposed to be like mechanical. It's all right. You could game out of the box with this stuff. This mouse is all right. It's a Clutch GM10, and the keyboard is what I got it here. It's a DS4200. You know, comes in the box, real nice. You can go on here and you can change, you know, from rainbow, or you could just set it to. I think that there's a setting to go to music or breathing. Marquee. What's marquee? We'll do that. Oh, I gotta hit apply. That's the problem. What does marquee do? There we go. Oh, so the lighting works right out of the box. It's pretty good. I like it. It's not bad. One piece of software that it does come with that I was not very happy with was Norton Antivirus. All the MSI stuff comes with Norton Antivirus just to the gills, and you know, it's bugging you all the time. You see here, I got super mad at this, so I uninstalled it. But it's like, don't miss out, Google Chrome protection. Don't use Norton Antivirus. Alright, and of course we need to check out some gaming. That's what this thing's meant for, after all. And you know, if it can't game, then what's the point? You know, even if it's got all kinds of RGB. We'll start off with some synthetics times 5 because I've come up with some interesting results. We see here, this is bone stock out of the box with the driver it came with, and I think it just loaded the Windows driver. I don't know if that's because someone had this before me and they reset it or what the hell's going on, but a little bit low on the score there, 9,717. But we can easily update the driver and apply a slight overclock of maxing the power slider out, adding 90 to the core clock, which will get this thing close to 2000 megahertz while it's gaming, as well as adding 400 to the memory. That is a light overclock. It will not do much to increase the heat or noise coming out of this. And we see here the score increases exponentially to well over 10,000. So that's pretty good. And that's the way I would run it out of the box, except for, you know how I said this thing has one DIMM populated? Well, I went out on my way to pull the CPU cooler out, because you can't change the memory without doing that. Found my only low profile kit of DDR4, which was also 2666, and it was actually half the RAM. I only had two 4 gig DIMMs of ballistics. Put that in there though, and you should see it actually makes a big difference. We see that CPU score go up quite a bit, and the we've got 10,800 now if you switch that out. So definitely significant increase if you go ahead and put another RAM in there, even though the 32 gigs isn't going to help you. Find the extra 16 gig DIMM, buy it, put it in here, and it'll actually increase your FPS in games. I can almost guarantee it. So yeah, not doing too bad. And how does this do versus my 7820X, which I also tested the exact same video card with? And that's, of course, a pretty similar clock speed. I get 4.7 gigahertz, 4.75 gigahertz on that, all cores all the time. And this thing's, running stock. Well, it's actually pretty comparable. The CPU score doesn't go up all that much, only by about 2,700. But the total score, is only, what, another 4,000 or 400 there? So it's actually fares out very well compared to a much more powerful CPU, just because the IPC on this, I think, is that much better compared to Skylake X. So it's not doing too bad, that's for sure. So you want to see some of just Firestrike, because why not? There you go, getting 22,152 with that little overclock I applied. But it's probably got some real games you want to be checking out, and I did, of course, check some games. And because I tested the 7820X, I just figured I'd compare that really high-end system with 32 gigs of RAM running at 4.75 gigahertz all the time, all cores, and having double the threads, or having hyper-threading, I should say. We see here that in Apex Legends, this system actually fares out a little bit better. The Trident gets about 9 FPS better on average, so it's doing very well in that multiplayer game, just strictly based on the higher IPC, a little bit higher IPC that the newer generation chips have. Now, if we move on to Far Cry 5, it's a little bit worse compared to the 7820X. That game must like the threads a little bit more, but about a 6 FPS average difference, but still breaking 60 FPS, and these are at 4K, so this is a 4K capable gaming machine. Moving on to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it's a little bit worse compared to the 7820X, but it's still doing very, very well, breaking the 60 FPS on average marker there, so not doing too bad, and that's at high settings because that game's just pretty hardcore, but you just bump her down to high instead of super high or ultra high or very high, and it'll do the job at DirectX 12. And then Battlefield 5, we see here it is 68 frames, and it's doing very well compared to its double the thread brethren, I should say there. And then the last game I tested was Doom, breaking 109 FPS on average at the highest settings. So very much a 4K capable gaming machine. I really think that this would pair well with a nice 4K TV being beside it, and you can break the 60 frames a second barrier, as long as you don't have a one of those BFG displays or something like that, and you really want to go crazy, then you can upgrade to the 1080 or the 2080 Ti model, I should say. But that's all well and good, but if it's really expensive, then it's not going to be worth it, right? Well, let's build the system ourselves on PC Part Picker. And apparently we're going to buy our CPU at Walmart. That's not a very good idea, but the exact same configuration here ends up being about $1,900. Let's account for some shipping, and maybe you'd want to combine some of these rather than buying from B&H and Walmart and this and that. I would say this is about a $2,000 system, and that's with the Fractal Design Node 202, which is a very VCR looking case compared to this one. I would much prefer to have the tempered glass and the ability to change the colors, even though RGB or not. I'd probably rather have this. It's a little bit bigger, but similar type of build. And yeah, so what is this? The price of this? What's the premium you're paying to have that nice RGB case and having it built for you? Well, it's actually not that bad. Yes, it's about $600 more there for this specific configuration, and I'm counting 32 gigs of RAM there because that's an available system on Amazon, and that would definitely make sure both those DIMMs would be populated, so you get even better performance than I was showing here. And yeah, that's not looking so bad, but I want to show you this one down here. Here we go. This is the same configuration, okay, but with just a smaller hard drive and half the RAM. And we'll go back over here, and oh wow, 2300. And all you're losing out on is a little bit of main drive storage space, which the big 512 in this one is actually pretty good. I had most of my games loaded on it, and they loaded really fast. But if you can put your games on the mechanical hard drive and deal with the 16 gigs of RAM, then you can buy this thing for essentially like $300 more than that PC part picker system that I was picking out. So I think this thing's actually a pretty good value. If we go back to the system that I showed you there, it's like $2,500 or $2,600. There we go. It's this one here. There we go. $2,589. Okay. This is an exact spec for spec copy of this next PC I'm going to show you, the Corsair One. Okay. And you're paying a lot more money for the same specs. And that's because this thing has water cooling, it's over-engineered, and I think other reviewers have gone to, like, I've never played with this, but I've gone to show that this thing is actually not that great for thermals. Like a little AIO with a 120 mil fan on it is never going to do that great in a little system like that. So, comparatively, I think I would go with this one over that because there's nothing that's going to break down in this. There's no pump, and if you want to access the internals of this, it's as simple as opening up this to access the CPU, maybe taking the CPU cooler out, it's a couple of screws, or if you want to open up the other side of the case to access the graphics card, it's a couple of screws. Getting into this thing looks really hard. At least to change certain components. So I think that this fares out a little bit better than that Corsair system, unless you want a trash can looking system. Yeah, so what's the price in Canada? Because I get my the PC through my contact at MSI Canada. He likes for me to show the prices on the Canadian stuff. It's $3,000 for this same configuration on Amazon, so you're paying a pretty decent price premium over here in the Canadas, so just keep that in mind. But I think that's still a fair value. I'm sure that to build the Node 202 case, you're probably up there near $3,000 here at the Canadian pricing of PC components. So not doing too bad, I don't think. And I'll leave Amazon links in the description just in case any of you crazy people want to go out and buy one of these things. Use my affiliate link. Yeah. All right. So, and they did want me to mention that MSI has what is it? MSI.com/promotions or ca.msi.com/promotions. They have all their listed promotions on there. I'll leave that link in the description as well. If you're looking to buy this or some MSI stuff, it's good to head over to that website. So yeah, all in all, I think this is a fairly nice system, and it's really a great package all around. It's not that much more expensive than if you were to build it yourself. It's certainly more elegant, and having to build that system, like I would build any system over a pre-purchase system any day of the week, but when it comes down to an ITX system in a little form factor like this, I think I would go with this over building it myself. Unless I found some special case or there was some special use case, or I wanted to do some project like shove a computer inside an Xbox 360 or something like that. I think this is a pretty awesome deal for the form factor it's in, and yeah, I've kind of fallen in love with it. I wish I could keep it, but I'm at Watch Timmy Joe, Instagram and Twitter. What do you think of the MSI Trident X? Would you prefer the Corsair with the water cooling and the trash can look, or the more traditional PC/console look of the MSI Trident X? I'll leave that up to you in the comments below, but I'm at Watch Timmy Joe, Instagram and Twitter. I want to thank MSI for sending this over. I've certainly got some mileage out of the 2080 that's in here, and using this system to pair with the CRT and with a 165 hertz monitor coming up. That'll be one of the next videos, but links in the description for everything we've talked about here today. And all in all, this is a really sweet system. I think the only mistake is the single channel memory, which you can definitely fix yourself by either buying the 32 gig gig version, or just buying another Samsung DIMM and putting it in there, and you know, away you go, Bob's your uncle. But that's really the only problem with it. It is cool, quiet, collected. It has, you know, it's not hot. It's awesome. It's a pretty sweet system, and I would definitely recommend it if you have, like, you know, 2,300 American or 2,500 American, or, you know, $3,000 Canadian to spend on your next mini PC. I'll see you guys in another video. Thank you very much for watching.